Israel and Hamas. Not the only two people groups at war. This is Wretched Radio. As we watch missiles being lobbed, we would do well to recognize exactly what that skirmish is, because whilst it is a land war, Paul told the Ephesians it's a spiritual battle, and so it is. What we are seeing in the Middle East, yep, it's a land war, but it is most certainly contrary to what President George W. Bush said. It is a religious war. You'll recall after September 11th, our president, who apparently didn't take the time to read a history book on the religion of Islam, proclaimed it's a religion of peace. Historically, it is most certainly not. It is a bellicose religion, and they have been waging war against everybody in their region for centuries. When did this skirmish begin? Let me suggest to you it goes back to Abraham's time. Do you recall the story of Abraham and Sarah? Supposed to have a baby together. Sarah got a little impatient, gave Abraham her maidservant Hagar. He gets pregnant with the bondservant, and they bear a son whose name is Ishmael. And in Genesis chapter 16, the angel of the Lord appears to Hagar. Behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son, and you'll call his name Ishmael. The Lord has heard your affliction. He, Ishmael, shall be a wild man. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. You say, what does that have to do with Islam and Judaism and Christianity? Well, if you would ask a good Muslim, they would tell you that the heir of promise is not Isaac, it is Ishmael. The descendants of Ishmael are the Arabic people. Please note, not every Arab is a Muslim. The majority are, and the Muslims who are Arabic would point to Ishmael as their great-great-great-great-grandfather, not Isaac. And so in the Middle East, you see a people group, the Jews, who would say, oh no, the son of the promise, it's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel. Not so in Islam. They would say that it's Abraham, Ishmael, the Arabic people, and the religion of Islam. And this description by the angel of the Lord in Genesis 16 has been playing itself out now for centuries. Furthermore, Islam is determined to wipe out Israel. Since 1948, they have been making an intense effort to get Jewish people out of a territory they believe is theirs, which of course was originally the Jewish people's, but we seem to forget that part of history. Nevertheless, this is yet another assault by Islam, the sons of Ishmael, against the sons of Isaac. In other words, it's a religious war. Furthermore, don't forget, it is Islam's intention to subjugate the entire world underneath the Prophet Muhammad, to bring in their understanding of eschatological events. It is a religious war, and I would suggest to you, we're having one of those right here in the good old US of A, and you say, wait a second, nobody's bombing America. You're right, not at the moment. But I would still make the case that we are experiencing the same type of war here in the States as they are in the Middle East, because it too is a spiritual war. It is a battle that is taking place between religions. And you say, who are we talking about here? Evangelicals and some sort of, like the Hindus? No. I would suggest to you, we are seeing a religious war between Christianity and everything else. Everything else, whether it's secularism, whether it is a religious system. But for the sake of simplification and an understanding of history, are we seeing a war between Christianity and paganism? You say, paganism? Well, that doesn't seem to be that overt. Well, hold on, let's do a little history lesson and go back in time and recognize that Western civilization prior to the ascendancy of Christianity was pagan. The gods. Now, by the way, please note, all earthly sort of gods, these are earthbound characters for the most part. They were not transcendent deities. They were earthly. Nevertheless, they were worshipped for centuries, and it was Christianity that ultimately pervaded the darkness, brought in the light, and pushed paganism, for the most part, out. Not totally, but for the most part. And what we are seeing right now is not a progression. The progressives would tell you, oh, we are progressing. No, we're not. We're regressing. To what? Paganism. Let me share with you a quote from 1939, T.S. Eliot. He was delivering some lectures, and he said that we are at a fork in the road. 1939, we're at a fork in the road where Western civilization will either be, don't like to use this word, I was going to say dominated, but that has some militaristic language. It'll either be basically informed by Christianity or paganism. That was 1939. C.S. Lewis, he wrote a book called Pilgrim's Regress. You know Pilgrim's Progress. He wrote Pilgrim's Regress. John, the protagonist, finds himself in Ascropolis. It's a Greek word that means ugly city, where the boys look like girls and the girls look, but when was this written? Was it the 50s this was written? The boys look like girls and girls look like boys, and everyone acts obscenely in their avant-garde rejection of Puritanism. Scandalized by what he encounters, John objects only to be shouted down by one of the residents. We have got over humanitarianism and prudery. In other words, we have done away with Christianity. This has been predicted now for a long time. Western civilization at a fork in the road. It does appear that that fork is splitting. And one of the times is Christianity. The other one is paganism. Well, let me take you back further in time. Now, this is from an article, First Things, Louise Perry. The headline of her article, We Are Repaganizing. And by the way, this woman isn't a professing Christian, nor is she pro-life. Nevertheless, she's a fair enough historian to recognize, whoa, we're going back. We're becoming pagans again. A poem from a Scottish poet. He said they'd found a brothel on the dig he did last night. I asked him how they know. He sighed, a pit of baby's bones. A pit of newborn baby's bones was how to spot a brothel. While that is a more recent poem, it is talking about a time when paganism ran rampant. And this was just one of the signs of paganism, that women and children were abused. That really is one of the starkest signs of a great nation or not. How does a nation treat its women and children? How do Christians treat women and children? Now, I know the feminists would bellyache, oh, pregnant and in the kitchen. Okay, that caricature aside. Now, take a look at how women are treated in China. Why is it that I think we're at 54% male, 46% women? Oh, yeah, abortions. Why? Because women are not esteemed as valued or valuable as men. India, the Middle East, Islam. A sign of a great nation is how they treat their women and children. Archaeological excavations of ancient Roman sites. This is from an archaeologist. First, you find the erotic statuary. And then you dig a bit more and you find the male infant skeletons. That's fascinating. Male because the males were of no use to the keepers of Roman brothels, whereas the female infants born to prostituted women were raised into prostitution themselves. And we're returning to that. It's called abortion. And it is seen rampant in America. Now, interestingly, did you know that most of the abortions that take place in abortuaries around the country, one day they're not going to dig up babies' bones because they simply put them into the trash and burn them with other medical waste. Women being utilized, being sexualized, children being murdered and butchered. What we're seeing right now in the United States is a spiritual war. There is a battle. It is between light and darkness. It is between Christianity and paganism. And the only way to win this battle is spiritually by propagating what results in more Christians, the gospel. In the small village of Grosina, Romania, the Tomorrow Club, it is a family affair. Romana, her husband, and 2 daughters minister to 30 children who weekly attend a Tomorrow Club where they hear about grace alone, faith alone, in Christ alone. Villages are being transformed. Would you please consider becoming a Tomorrow Club partner? Simply visit tomorrowclubs.org/wretched, tomorrowclubs.org/wretched.